Hi there, welcome to the Teaching Firsties YouTube channel. My name is Rachel Hull and I taught in the classroom for 22 years and now I help teachers set up and maintain the literacy stations in their classroom. One of the ways that I do that is here on YouTube or on the blog teachingfirsties.com. So please click subscribe so you'll have easy access to all the weekly videos that will come out through my channel. Now today we're going to talk about how to manage the shared reading materials that you're going to use for your literacy centers. I've talked before about how it irked me to no end when my kiddos would argue over shared literacy center materials. If you missed the video about student expectations and building good habits and classroom management for your centers, it will be, I'll link it in the description here. But I had to get creative with my materials and how I laid out the things that they're going to need, all the supplies, so that eliminated the problem. The first thing I do when I'm setting up my literacy centers as far as the supplies go is jot down what your students will need at each station. Doing this ahead of time is going to help you stay organized. You can use a notebook to make your lists, or you can use our free Literacy Stations Planner. This has ideas for your materials and it will help you organize it. You can either use it on Google Slides or there's a PDF that is editable. You can type right on the PDF, or if you're old school, you can print it and do it that way. So you're going to want to grab a copy at literacystations.com/planner, or I'll put the link in the description too. Now, when you're making your lists, whether you make it just on a piece of paper or on this planner, make sure to remember everything from the pencils to the magnet letters. If you missed the video on planning the content for your centers, you're going to want to watch that too. That'll be in the descriptions too. And then make sure you have an idea of what activities you're going to want to put in your centers. Then you can plan what materials you'll need for it. For example, do you want your students to share their materials? Or do you want them to bring their own? I found that it was easier for me some years to have kids bring their own crayon boxes to their centers. It really depends on the year and the makeup of your kiddos. There are some years that I would throw a bunch of scissors, glue, etc. on the table, and then they could share it, fine. But you're also going to have some years where you have kids fighting over the beloved pair of blue scissors. And that causes a problem. You wouldn't think that blue scissors would cause a problem, but believe me, they do. So if they travel with their own materials, that's going to eliminate that problem. I always kept a lot of extra leftover school boxes lying around, or I'd pick them up on sale when they were, Target, Dollar Days. And so I would make boxes for my spelling center. So all they had to do was grab the box and just use their materials in their box. And then I'd put in crayons, pencils, magnet letters, spelling cubes. So all they had to do was grab their box and start their work. So that helped a lot as well. But I'm going to show you how to organize your materials a little bit better. So that way when it comes time to redistributing for the week, getting your centers ready for the next week, it's going to take you 5 minutes. And that's it. You can set up your centers in 5 minutes or less. So I'm going to show you how I do that. A little bit of a disclaimer, it does take a little bit of time before that because you're going to need to make the copies and you're going to need to get ready. I like to plan ahead. I like to see a long-term thing. So I don't plan each center 1 week at a time. I actually ended up planning for a month at a time. And it just was easier for me to grab everything I needed and make those extra copies I'd spend maybe one day after school, and that's what I would do. But I would do it for the whole month. And so then later on, if you add up the time it would take to do that every week, you're going to save a lot more time this way. So I would make all the copies that I needed. I would, if I have laminated any, any envelopes or games and pieces, I would get all of that planned out ahead of time. And I would use my Literacy Stations planner again to map all that out. And then what I do, I have lots of these kinds of trays for my, in my closets. And so I only have 2 right here for an example, but if I have 5 stations, I'll turn that off. If I have 5 stations going, I would have 5 for them. And all I would do is I would take my copies that I've made. So here are, let's say that this is the, this is actually the poetry station. So I would have, this is for 1 week, this is for the next week, week 3, and week 4. It's helpful if you take your sticky notes and you add them and write the date on the sticky note. And that way you have that organized, because you might forget which ones you're going to grab. Then if this is the, what did I say it was Listening Center? If this is the Listening Center basket, I'll keep that right there. Then I'll repeat the process for reading, for poetry, for writing, for spelling, etc. Now, that isn't the 5-minute part. That'll take you probably an afternoon after school to get it all done. But here is the 5-minute part. So I always have a basket, and I will start I'll start with an empty basket, and I will go around and I'll collect all the old things that I'm not going to use. So I'll put all the extra worksheets in here that aren't going to be used, and I'll recycle them. I'll collect all the magnet letters or cubes, and I'll just keep going around and I'll collect everything, and I'll come back and I'll redistribute the magnet letters, and I'll recycle the old things. Then what I'll do is I'll take the top of each, because they'll be in order. So the top packet of papers here will be for my Reading Center. I'll just grab that and I'll put it in the basket. The top one for my Listening Center will be right here. I'll put it in the basket, and so on. I'll grab each week's things. I'll add my magnet letters, and then I will go station to station, and I kind of map it out where I go around my classroom. So I'll take my basket and I'll stop at the first station. And in the first station up at the corner was always my reading comprehension. So I'd get that out, and maybe if I'm going to use sticky notes for that, I would place all that there. And then I would go around to spelling, and I would put this there. The spelling's going to kind of cut more into your time, because you're going to want to make sure you put the right magnet letters in there. But once you get the hang of it, it'll take you probably about a minute. And then you keep going around until you're all done and you have an empty basket again. So planning ahead of time will save you so much more time when you are planning for your centers. So I hope that's helpful for you. And mostly, I hope it's going to save you a bunch of time when you're planning for those materials for your Literacy Stations. So be sure to stay tuned for more Literacy Stations videos here on the Teaching Firsties channel. Have a good one.